Welcome fans, old and new, to Covenant Canon. Here, we dive into the lore behind the Covenant aspects of the Halo universe. Be they faction, character, equipment, or simply religious values. Anything regarding Covenant, we have. But today, I have the pleasure of collaborating with none other than Ultimate Halo, a big Halo channel that dives into, well, anything regarding Halo. It's a fantastic channel, and I highly recommend that you guys check it out. Link to the channel can be found in the description below. But here, we'll be exploring behind the armory of the Banished pre-Halo Infinite, since they were confirmed a few weeks ago. But fair warning, some of these vehicles/weapons may not return in the main game. Just want to be clear. Ultimate Halo will be going over the Banished vehicles, from Ghost, Locust, Marauder, to Scarab. The link to that video can be found in the description below. But as for myself, I'll be going over the weapons employed by the Banished that we know thus far, shown throughout the media. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we begin, for those of you who are uninitiated, the Banished is a unique group that stands out amongst the other Covenant Remnant factions that popped up after the Covenant War ended in 2552. It was originally a rebellious band of brutes that opposed the Old Covenant, led by a Jirohanai warlord called Atriox. Made up of killers and mercenaries of nearly all former Covenant client races, the Banished fills the massive power vacuum left behind in the wake of the fall of the Old Empire. And throughout its existence, the Banished raid and pillage Covenant space, acquiring newer and older weapons to feed their endless hunger for power. Starting things off is the Type 25 plasma pistol, developed in the Iru armory on the elite homeworld of Sanghelios. The plasma pistol is a semi-automatic infantry weapon used by the lower caste of the Covenant, grunts, jackals, and drones. It's become ubiquitous among combatants of all kinds during the Covenant War, due to its versatility and lethality. However, in the Banished, it's become solely exclusive to the Ungoi conscripts within standard combat units, led by their merciless Jirohanai superiors. The Type 25 plasma rifle is another Iru armory creation, with its lineage traced all the way back to the War of Beginnings, a conflict between the San Shayum and Sangheli that resulted in the founding of the Covenant. The current plasma rifle changed little over the centuries of service. It wasn't until the waning days of the Covenant that a variant entered widespread use. Meddling with blends of Forerunner technology, Sangheli craftsmanship, and San Shum artistry was seen as blasphemous at best, heretical at worst. That said, a handful of plasma rifle variants have been produced over the ages as unique creations of Sangheli artisan armorers for influential clients and heroes of renown who are above Ministry's sanctions. The Brute plasma rifle is one such variant, known as the Blood Hand to the Jirohanai. This model was manufactured at the Sacred Promissory's assembly forges in preparation for the High Prophet of Truth's takeover of the Covenant. Under its crimson plating, the artisan engineers in Truth's employ were allowed to make modifications to the rifle's sacred design pattern, tailored to the aggressive nature of the Jirohanai. These changes, which increased the weapon's rate of fire and damage, would have been deemed heretical without a hierarch's direct blessing. But since the fall of High Charity, this current model of the plasma rifle is still being manufactured by an unknown party, and the Banished have seized a great many of them for use of the Sangheli mercenaries employed by Atriox. The Type 25 Carbine, more commonly known as the Spiker, was a purely Jirohanai designed weapon, crafted from the hulls of the Sacred Promissory. It fires long, sharp, superheated metal spikes and has 2 large blades under its barrel, making it a deadly weapon in close quarters combat. However, the Banished variation of the Spiker has 6 blades mounted around the barrel and is much larger than the ones developed by the Covenant. This is a standardized weapon for the Jirohanai population within the Banished. The Type 55 Storm Rifle was a creation of Lodom Armory on St. Helios. Made to replace the Plasma Rifle, the Storm Rifle has a rotating modular coil set, high-mounted cooling shroud, and extended barrel. Though not officially encountered until 2555, it was in Covenant service for decades, and was employed by Banished raiders early in their history during the Covenant War, and is now utilized by St. Heli's sellswords as marksmen and as infantry support. The Type 51 Carbine is a medium to long-range weapon developed by the Iru Armory. This semi-automatic marksman weapon is a fairly unique weapon among the Covenant Armory, as it fires ballistic projectiles laced in radioactive isotopes instead of directed energy blast. The design of the Carbine can be traced back to the marksman rifles early in the war-torn history of the St. Heli. This weapon was used frequently throughout the Covenant War, from skilled Kigyar snipers to highly venerated St. Heli warriors. And following the fall of the Covenant, the Banished acquired these weapons, often wielded by Jirohanai soldiers or St. Heli rangers employed under Shipmaster Let Valier. The Type 53 Plasma Caster is an elegant but deadly weapon, developed by the merchants of Kikost, a St. Heli armory based on the St. Heli moon of the same name. The Plasma Caster is a munitions launcher designed for frontline and shock trooper roles. The weapon can fire up to 5 explosive rounds quickly, or a single powerfully charged one before detonating. It was produced nearly 100 years ago and has gone through numerous improvements by local St. Heli clans. The Banished used these weapons early in their history, back when they were raiding Covenant supply vessels, and continued to use them for shock trooper roles, more noticeably for the battle-hardened St. Heli enforcers to devastate enemy fortifications in hit-and-run attacks, in an effort to regain what's left of their honor. The Type 25 grenade launcher, also known as the Brute Shot or the Death Lobber, is a Jirohanai crafted semi-automatic ballistics launcher capable of firing up to 6 grenade rounds at a target, crafted by the Sacred Promissory. There are 2 variations of this weapon. Both are fitted with a vicious, stock-mounted blade and share many components. The T-25 carries 4 grenades, while the T-25B holds 6, and is easily mass-produced. The Brute Shot was a standard Jirohanai weapon used by the species during their time with the Covenant, up until the Great Schism. Now in the hands of the Banished, these weapons were entrusted only to Jirohanai warriors appointed by Atriox himself to enforce his will upon any unruly elements within the Banished. These chieftains are known as Atriox's Chosen. The Type 21 Energy Sword is an elite melee weapon manufactured by High Charity's Sacred Promissory. Wielded exclusively by the St. Heli, the weapon's design can be traced back to ancient curve blades of St. Heli past, and later their predecessors, the Burn Blades. Energy swords were normally mass-produced for high-ranking St. Heli officers and specialized units, each with different designs and colors to their blades. One example can be the crimson-bladed Blood Blades, used by the Special Operations Unit known as the Silent Shadow. After the Covenant fell and the Sacred Promissory was lost to the parasitic flood, many elite armories continued to mass-produce energy swords for the St. Healy civil conflicts back home. But within the Banished hierarchy, high-ranking St. Healy honor guards under Shipmaster Letvalier carry these blades to fulfill their contract to Atriox and his Juro Hanai forces. Like the Type 1 energy sword, the Type 2 gravity hammer is a powerful close-range weapon and was likewise developed by the Sacred Promissory. Hailing from pre-Covenant war hammers wielded by war chieftains, gravity hammers were typically symbols of leadership for a war chieftain of a powerful pact. But with the rise of Tartarus gaining favor with the High Prophets, many gravity hammers were mass-produced and given to bloodthirsty captains and zealous chieftains. In the Banished, however, ceremony is a luxury they can't afford, and so jump brutes are entrusted with specialized hammers to devastate enemy structures as they travel across treacherous environments. High-ranking Juro Hanai warlords within the Banished army are also entrusted with powerful gravity hammers with special modifications to pull enemy forces so that they can crush them up close and in person. Developed by the merchants of Kikost, the Type 27 beam rifle is an older Covenant sniper rifle compared to the more advanced Type 50. These were used throughout the Human Covenant War by skilled Kigyar marksmen for recon and infantry support. The Banished utilizes them for an entirely different use. Blood-fueled grunts under the command of Decimus use them to siphon off the health of any target to replenish their strength and that of their fellow squad mates. The Type 33 fuel rod gun is a shouldered fire heavy weapon that launches explosive projectiles that detonate on impact. Once produced by the assembly forges of High Charity, now by the merchants of Kikost, the Type 33 is often used for anti-infantry and anti-vehicle roles. These were held by highly skilled Covenant officers, these being St. Healy, Juro Hanai, or even highly skilled Ungoi troops, the latter still being employed by the Banished with heavy-duty Ungois to devastate ground vehicles and aircraft. An oddity amongst Banished weapons, the Assault Cannon was a powerful weapon in the Covenant's military service. Similar to that of the Fuel Rod gun, the Assault Cannon is a common weapon for the towering Mecha Legolo, one of many gestalts for the worm-like Legolo. It has two different modes, one that fires a single round of incendiary gel, the ammunition found within the Fuel Rod gun, and the other being able to fire said gel in short bursts. These were common for hunter units throughout the Covenant War, and remained useful to the most violent Legolo within the Banished, with some being able to carry more powerful versions of this gun, capable of mutually assured destruction. Yet with all the plunder they gathered over the years, the Banished developed their own weapons of war for their most skilled warriors. Unlike the Covenant, the Banished hold no religious scruples when it comes to crafting tools of destruction to benefit their desire for galactic domination. One such example is the grenade launchers used by brute grenadiers, which spores out fumes of infusion gel, ammunition found within fuel rod guns. Grenadiers are maddening brutes, exposed to the dangerous substance, and are deemed too unstable to advance through the ranks, so they subject themselves to Vordis' experiments, and the grenade launcher was one of these toys. It can be overcharged by infusion to infect a much larger range of dispersal to hostile infantry. Speaking of Vordis, his personal tools of war is an arm blade on his left arm and a barbed gravity hammer on the other. The arm blades can retract both sides, and each of the two blades can be fired at a high velocity to cut through the toughest hides. His hammer is covered with infusion gel, which leaves pools of infusion on impact, devastating any opposition with ease. His elder brother Pavium, on the other hand, prefers taking to the battlefield as an engine of destruction, which is where his mortar and relic tower shield comes in handy. In combat, Pavium is a walking tank with his heavy mortar system for directed bombardment and for calling out high-value targets for combined fire from his personal mega turret. His panoply of war always includes his custom warplate gifted to him by Decimus himself, a massive hunter shield that can withstand a great deal of punishment before Pavium reduces their fortifications to rubble. Once Atriox's right hand, Decimus was a prime example of Jirohanai rage and power, but he was also a crafty brute, building a powerful exoskeleton for heavy combat. The suit's features include a crude propulsion system, allowing him for limited flight, a gravity beam that pulled hostiles toward him, and a powerful gravity mace to grind them into powder. The suit, unfortunately, was destroyed during the Battle of the Ark when Decimus lost his life to the crew of the UNSC Spirit of Fire. Last but not least, the War Master of the Banished has his own personal weapon, one that serves as a symbol for his cause. Atriox's personal gravity mace, Chainbreaker. Using parts from the energy sword of the elite executioner who banished him from the Covenant, and parts left over from a gravity hammer, Atriox crafted Chainbreaker to be a formidable weapon, able to forcibly attract individuals like that of other gravity hammers, and cut through their armor like that of an energy sword. It acts, in a way, as Atriox's personal scepter, and inspiration for the symbol of the Banished, also known as the Mark of Atriox. This weapon rallied the Jirohanai during and after the Covenant War, as Atriox crushed all who would oppose him, from the Kikyar scientist, Sigron, to the elder chieftain, Jovis. With Chainbreaker in hand, Atriox leads the Banished and rallies the Jirohanai under a new cause, to become not serfs, but warriors, ones who forge their own destiny.